Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to this episode. We're going to be talking about an interesting subject today, one that Leslie and I are both excited about. Are you ready to be great? Are we? We hope so. We're going to try and show you that we are. And this is a wonderful. Both of us got excited as soon as we heard about this. This was something that lit us both up because this is a topic that a lot of people talk about, and very few people are willing to actually lean into and become. So that's the subject for today. I'm Coach Andy, the unconditional coach. I help people get all kinds of results around what they're looking for from their lives and how to become the person you want to become, how to get the results you didn't know you could get. Go ahead, Leslie, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I had to step away for a second just to close my door because I'm on a noisy street here. In fact, it seems like it's just noisier this year since we've been back here in Mexico. So, and of course, it's not that it's, hey, we're coming to you real life and things are going to happen. And so, yeah, there's going to be noises, but I wanted to at least minimize it the best I can. So,
Perfect.
hello, everybody. I'm excited for today's topic. I don't know where it's going yet. I'm a little nervous. I have to be honest because I'm not really sure how we're going to start the topic, but it's okay. This is a challenge. I always am up for a challenge. My name is Leslie Gadet, and I am a mindset and emotional awareness coach for women. I help women around really dialing in their self awareness skills around emotions and how they allow those emotions to fuel the thoughts in tandem. They work together. They basically rule your life and steal your time. And so I help women around that so that they have more freedom to really actually respond to those triggers from a place of total confidence and not have their time stolen, and they're able to go about their day to day. So that's what I do.
Yay! Yay! Welcome. Thank you. And um, this topic today is a wonderful one. Um, we titled it "Are You Ready to Be Great?" We did so on purpose because, quite honestly, if most when I've asked other people of this question, most are not interested for a plethora of reasons. Most think it's egotistical to want to be great. Many think they're too shy. A lot of people they're just not interested in being great, and yet a lot of people want to have a comfortable living and and help their family and maybe help other people and make a difference in the world. Some people want to have significance, some people want to leave a mark, have a legacy, and how you do all of those things is by being great. You don't have to be great internationally, you don't have to be great on the world stage or even on the national stage. You can be great within your family, you can be great within your personal life, you can be great within your friendships. So there's a lot of ways to be great, and it's interesting to talk about this subject because it's not something that is discussed in enough detail to really understand what it actually means. So I really love this. What's your thoughts on the subject so far, Leslie?
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Andy. I believe that it can come across if you hear the stepping into your greatness, and people might look at it while you are, and in other words, you're stepping into being superior. And I don't look at it that way because for
Right.
me, like you had mentioned, it's what we want to do with our lives. And so if that means being the best coach, if that means showing up as the best version of myself for my family and my friends, the people that I'm connected to, if that means, creating a space for someone to really become vulnerable and open, and they feel that there's no judgment or criticism, but they actually feel comfortable sharing, that is allowing myself to be great. And it means I'm just trying to be as the best I can at what I do and the things how I contribute to the world around me. And so that's to me what greatness is really about. It's not about me being better than anyone or being superior to anyone. It's really just I look at my life and how can I do things in a way that it just is the best of me always. And that's how I live my life.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly it. I was just thinking about it when you said it. We could be great in all the different aspects of our lives. it reminded me that of the generation I grew up just at the tail end or after the generation of people who wanted to be individuals, who wanted to stop being, you know, part of the normal. They wanted to be unusual. They wanted to be unique. They wanted to be different. And what I don't think a lot of people understand is why we want to be different, why we want to be seen as not the same as everybody else, is because we want to be recognized for something. And that's what greatness looks like. Like you said, it's not a matter of I'm better than anybody. You're great and I'm great for completely different reasons. We don't compete with each other. We collaborate really quite well, and when we're great together, it exponentially multiplies. It just gets better and better, and that's because we lean into our uniqueness and how how you as our audience can become great if you choose to is by just deciding what it is that you like about you and doing that more, a lot more. And unfortunately, like every great person, if you look at the national or international stage, most of the great people have enemies. And I don't mean enemies that want to kill them. Sometimes that's the case, but usually it's enemies that just, people that don't like them, people that prefer that they didn't say anything, people prefer that they were quiet. And that's when you know you're getting to greatness. When you find people who are trying to shut you down or contradict you, because what you're going to find is only when you stand up to those people will you find people who really admire you for who you are. You'll really find people who follow what you represent, what you stand for. And that doesn't mean you have to stand for everything that you believe in. Just stand for something and lean into that like it matters, because it does. And one of the things that I see in my clients and quite honestly in the world as a whole is more and more people are choosing to hide behind somebody else's opinion, hide behind some scandal or news item. And what I want to challenge is that you can all get the results you're looking for in your life by leaning into your own personal greatness rather than trying to hide behind somebody else's or some news story. Greatness is such a wonderful thing for us to lean into. It's the way we get what we want out of the world, but it's the way we get what we want in our families. It's the way we get what we want in our lives, is leaning into our greatness.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you touched on a couple of things where I think what happens is, yeah, there will be people out there who will say they don't like what you're saying or they won't agree with you in a way. They'll be very public about it. And I think it's really more because what you've done is you've opened up their own inner dialogue around maybe something that's lacking in their life. And you've put the spotlight on something that they wish they had more of. People who are, again, when you say hiding behind other people's opinions and adopting them as their own because they're trying to assimilate, and I think a lot of that is because they don't, and if standing out means that you have the spotlight on you, that can be extremely uncomfortable. But again, having something that you stand for, that no matter what, you would prefer to stand out and stand up for what you believe in. But and there is always going to be those people that are going to have an opinion about that, but it's just because what you've ended up doing is putting the spotlight on something that they are maybe afraid to think about. Maybe they are afraid to not assimilate into the general population, right? The saying of the 1% versus the 99%. Like, there's the 1% of people who you could probably attribute that phrase to pretty much anything. I've heard it mostly used around business owners, the successful business owners in whatever
Yeah.
area of business. But I definitely know you could apply this to even just as being a human being, doing, like leading from your core values. Like my number one core value is integrity. So I want to be that in that 1% of people who value integrity, meaning they show up and do the right thing, even when no one is watching or even when it's not popular opinion.
Yeah.
Because I would rather stand up for what's right than to be following along, representing or supporting something that is meant to take down people, to put down people, to cause stress in the world. I'd
Right.
rather, be one who stands up for other people, who stands up for supporting and, and encouraging other people to do the best, for their lives. And I think that's what part of being a leader is, but it's also what I believe a great leader would do as well. And
Yeah.
so a leader steps into the greatness of what they do by how they inspire. And a lot of that, I think, for both Andy and I, is we lead by serving.
Yeah.
So that's, and for us, because we lead by serving, that means that we're stepping into the greatness of ourselves and how we can support the people that we work with so that they go out and they have healthy relationships or a healthy lifestyle, whatever that looks like. But I think it's just that's part of what stepping into greatness is all about. It's not about us being superior to anyone,
Right.
because again, we both lead from service.
Yeah.
That's how we lead. So we want to serve other people and help other people be their best selves and be able to have a life that they want to live. Because I truly believe everyone is born to add value, whatever that is, and it's just again, we shouldn't be looking at how can we assimilate, but rather what can we add to the world. Even you've heard, and I don't know if you've heard in the audience, I know Andy and I both know this, but there is that common terminology used within businesses, like adding culture in business. What does that look like? Well, I truly
Yeah.
believe that can be taken outside of the business and it can be said, like, what kind of culture are you creating and are you embodying and are you influencing and are you nurturing in your community, in your family, like
Yeah.
in the world? Because the culture doesn't necessarily have to be what background you're from, but it's
Right.
actually what you are, what you embody, your core values, how you live your life, like the place that you come from. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
stepping into greatness and
Yeah.
adding value to the world. So that's what to me, I guess, is greatness, on a
Yeah.
broader scale.
Yeah. Yeah. And an example of non-competitive greatness, again, playing off of what you said, your core value, your biggest core value is integrity.
Hmm.
And I also value integrity almost as much as you do. But my biggest core value is unconditional love and acceptance of each other, right? Unconditional coach. That's where the name came from. And not just from unconditional love. I don't mean that as in you never part ways and you got to stay together forever. That is a interpretation. It's one interpretation of unconditional love. But what I'm talking about is I want to be there regardless of what happens in your life, what happens to you, what you do for me or to me. I want to be there. I want to be available to you. Now, I might have some boundaries around how I'm available. I might have some boundaries around what I'm willing to do under these circumstances. But there's almost always a circumstance that I'm willing to help with one thing or another, with this thing or that thing, depending on, whether or not I can provide, whether or not I'm capable of providing what you're asking for. So I also believe in integrity, but for me, the core value is this unconditional love and acceptance. And that's a way that Leslie, that you and I get together and use our strengths, use our individual greatness to make partnership, this channel, into something wonderful, into something that is as powerful as it has become and will become as we continue doing this year so far. And that's part of what it means to be great. You lean into your integrity. You make sure that we show up on time. You make sure that we have everything scheduled out and everything planned up and everything, prepared. And I make sure that the message is understood and that we're showing up to care and compassion and serve. And yet, you care about serving as much as I do, and I care about integrity as much as you do. Just our core values are different. And that's how we serve each other. It's not that we have different values, because we don't. We have, most of our values are pretty close to the same thing. Just
Hmm.
which ones are at the top of the list is what's different. And we use those for each other's benefit, for the benefit of you, the people we serve. And this is what greatness looks like. This is how you can be great in your life, in your partnerships, in your family, in your business. You show up and do the thing you're good at to open up the space for your partner, your friend, your family, your coworker, your boss, your employee. You show up and in your greatness so that they can show up in theirs. We show up in our strengths so that the other person can show up in their strengths. The things that you do free me up to be good at what I do. The things that I do free you up to be good at what you do. This is what partnership looks like. And whether that partnership is professional like ours, or whether that's in a romantic relationship or a family dynamic or a job or any other aspect of your life, the more you show up doing what you stand for, believing what you believe, um, standing for your values, and using your greatness, using what you're good at for the benefit of yourself and those around you, the more it frees them up to also do the same thing. Trust me, if you find people in your life are living small, start living great and see what happens. I
Yeah.
promise you, your life will change.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true because it is a ripple. It's like that, what you just said is like if you could have a picture, if I could give you a picture, it's, I'm sure pretty much everyone's had even some small experience around this or some bigger experience around this. But imagine that room you've been in or that place where you've been in. Somebody just walks into the room and they exude something. There's just something about them. There's confidence. There's, you just see there's this light radiating from them. It's just it's almost like they have this aura that just goes
Yeah,
before them, and you see that. You see how they interact with the people around them, and you want some of that. And that's what being great can be like when we step into owning who we are, like you were saying, and doing the things that really light us up and inspiring and encouraging the people around us, make that our immediate life, the immediate connections we have, the immediate world we're living in, a better place. And if we can do one person and becomes two, becomes four, becomes eight, becomes 16, I mean, it just doubles. And the reason is because people do love the goodness. They do. People
yeah,
do actually gravitate towards goodness. But unfortunately, I believe, and this is just my opinion, but I believe our news outlets have us focusing on the sensational
yeah,
because that makes news. That's what sells their ratings. That gets their ratings higher because it's sensationalism. It's whatever is out there. The news is usually bad news because bad news sells faster because people are
yeah,
more intrigued. Oh, that happened. It's almost like we have this, I don't know, like this radar for, we want to
yeah,
see, and unfortunately, this I believe could be part of it. We want to see that someone else is doing a lot worse off than we are, because that makes us maybe feel better about where we're at in our life. And I feel that to be a great person, you would want to instead hearing that news of someone's misfortune, you would want to pray for them or at least have some kind words to say, I hope that their life gets better. And that's just a better way to, coming from a really calmer, nicer, more grateful, unconditionally loving place, when you can do that for a complete stranger,
yeah,
and not have like, oh, well, I need to see them doing bad because that makes me feel good about my life, but rather, you know what? My life may not be exactly the way I want it to be right now, but I'm grateful for a lot of the things in my life, and someone else is having misfortune, and I hope things turn around for them. It When you come from a place of gratitude, it just does something to you and changes you from the inside out. It really truly does. It does take time, does take work, it does take focus, and it does take commitment to do it, because you have to want to make the choice to do it. Like no one
yeah,
can make you decide that you want to want to talk about other people with a kind voice or kind thoughts. It's up to you. And I
yeah,
think really greatness is like not only stepping into yours, but also encouraging other people around you to step into theirs. I feel like the world could be a better place. Like, one person at a time in your little piece of the world, one person being you, and then the next person that you inspire, and they inspire someone, and it just goes out and out and out. And that's how you can create lasting change. That's how if you are thinking of legacy, what can I leave as my footprint before I die? This is a place that you can start.
Yeah, yeah, and I like how you went to that space of the negativity and how we look for the bad things, the sensational news. Our brains are wired to look for danger. I mean, that is genetically what our brain is designed to do. Our body, our soul wants new experiences, and our brain is looking for danger. So bad news sells because what we're looking for is things that might hurt us. This tornado that's happening halfway across the world, well, that might happen here too. So I want to know how to deal with that. Or this you know shooting that happened in this school, that might happen near me too, and I want to be prepared for that. Our brains, one of the glorious consequences of the brain that we've evolved is that we can see danger from 30 steps away. A tornado across the world is dangerous to me, and I want to watch that. A shooting somewhere else in the world is dangerous to me, and I want to know what's going on. And that's because our brains can make all the jumps that it takes to equate that to something that might happen in our personal lives. And the great people with greatness, people who lean into their greatness, people who love, people who show up, people who do what they say, all of us see those things and recognize that our brain wants to see the danger. We acknowledge that that's what we're doing, and we decide. We make a choice. It has to be conscious because the subconscious choices are always looking for danger. So we make a choice. I want to help. Now, maybe I can't help the tornado victims from across the world, or the school shooting victims from across the world, or the societies or the peoples from there, but I can help in some way. I can help make my small little family prepared. I can help make my community more aware, or I can help be prepared myself. I can understand a little bit of what's going on. Maybe I will watch the news and be prepared, or maybe I'll choose not to because I've seen 30 of those already this week. Maybe I'll just choose to lean into the joy and love and gratitude that I see and want to experience, and I'll choose to do that instead of watching the news. Leaning into whatever it is your superpower is, whatever it is that makes you unique, that makes you great. And a lot of the times, what we think makes it, what we think is a fault or a weirdness or a something that leaves us out is actually our greatness. Ask anybody who's gone through cancer and survived. Ask anybody who's gone through some sort of other disease, terminal disease, and survived. Ask anybody who has had a major catastrophe happen in their life. Somebody close to them died, or they were at the international sports level and had a major accident that ended their career, or ask any of those people. And although a lot of them do end up in depression, there are many of them that use that to inspire greatness even farther. And that's where greatness comes from. It doesn't always come from, oh, I just believe in integrity or I believe in unconditional love. I mean, yes, that's where greatness can come from. And it can also come from misery. It can come from hurt. It can come from pain. It can come from joy. If you grew up with a family where the mom and dad didn't argue every day, if you grew up in a community where everybody supported everybody and the kids could play around the neighborhood for all hours of the day and into the night and everybody would be safe and nothing bad ever happened, that's also a superpower. You don't need to have negativity to have a superpower either. Your greatness comes from whatever you've experienced, whatever you believe, whatever you want to share either with the world or with somebody smaller, somebody, my family, my workers, my coworkers, my job, my community. It can be, of course, our definition of greatness for most people is I want to be great on a global scale or at least on a national scale. And that is a definition of greatness, but it's not the only one. If you allow other people to be great, if you are great yourself and you do what you can do best, you will empower other people. You'll show them, you'll not just inspire them to be great, but you'll allow them to be great. So many people around the world and in our society specifically are trying to do things that they don't like doing or that they don't know how to do or that they're not very good at or that they don't want to spend all their time doing. Most of us spend 80 to 90 to perhaps even 95% of our time and energy every day doing those things we really don't like or really aren't the things that fire us up. So the more people who do those things that are great at them, the less I have to do them. As I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons our partnership works so well is because you do what's great with you, what you do well, and so do I. And that means that all the things that I'm good at, you don't have to do. And we discussed this just the other day. You're good at some of those things. Just you think that I'm better at them so that you'd rather I do them. You know, I'm good at many of the things that you're good at, but I like how you do them better. Maybe I'm good at them, I just don't want to do them. Or maybe you're good at it, you just don't want to do it. Great. That allows each of us to do the thing that fires our soul and makes things easier for each other. This is what greatness does. If greatness is the opposite of selfish, it doesn't put me above somebody else. It doesn't put you above somebody else. It doesn't make you better than anybody. It allows them to be better. When you do what you're good at, when you do what you're great at, when you lean into your unique greatness, two things happen. Those people who don't appreciate your greatness will drift away. And those people who value your greatness will become closer and you'll find more of them. Your joy will increase, your fulfillment will increase, your happiness will increase. You'll probably get a better job or start a better business. You'll probably get most of the things that you're looking for in your life by leaning into your greatness. And sometimes we have to first sift out those people who don't believe in our greatness. We don't got to do that. Leaning into, and becoming great at the things you're great at, that does that automatically for you. Just do what you're good at. Stand for what you're good at. Stand for what you believe in and be great. And your life will change. I promise you. Ours have, both of us. And we just love it. We're so much happier now. You and your marriage and me in my traveling individual life. Like I'm a single guy that gets to be anywhere I want to be, whenever I want to be there. And I love that. And you're happily married for a very long time. And this comes from us leaning into our greatness. This comes from us being really, really good at the things that we're good at and letting somebody else be good at the things we're not. That's what greatness can do for you and those you love.
I love that. And so now I want to lean into something a little bit that we had some controversial languaging in our description, because you're probably thinking, well, I don't like what you wrote and I want to discuss this. So the part where we talk about not everyone is destined for greatness.
Yes.
And some who strive for it will never achieve it.
Yes.
Most people avoid it like the plague. So let's talk about those.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
So my definition of maybe someone is not being destined for greatness, and I believe it really doesn't mean. So first of all, I believe everyone is destined for greatness if you have the right mindset, if you have the right qualities about yourself that is not coming from a selfish place, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is what really means that someone may not achieve their own greatness, partly because number one, they might be very selfish, all me centered, Could be that they would rather assimilate and hide behind social media or hide behind other people's opinions as their own, because they don't want to stand out and stand up. And so I think that you might not achieve your own greatness because you're not willing to actually step outside into the light and maybe step into the spotlight and maybe make a few people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, when you're making some people uncomfortable, if it's coming from a place where you're stepping up and stepping out and standing up for something that truly makes, is for the good of your community, your family, for the world as a whole, and this is something you truly believe in, and you're making somebody else uncomfortable, it I mean that it means that you're onto something, right? And you're stepping into the light and shining light on something, a topic that people need to maybe talk more about. And if you're making people uncomfortable about it, it's because they're not willing to come outside of their own. Maybe they might be narrow-minded about something based on experiences and things that they've decided to believe are the truth around different areas of their life, around things that are going on in the world. And so, so those people may never achieve their greatness because they're not willing to have their own minds, have their own mind, have their own opinion, allow themselves to step outside into the spotlight, maybe making other people uncomfortable because, they might be opening someone else's eyes up to something that they could be lacking in their own life, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. So they go on the attack in a way. And I've seen people post about that, feeling uncomfortable, feeling upset for someone commenting on their post in a negative way. And that's just because you've opened up something for them that they may have been thinking but have been afraid to talk about, and they would rather assimilate with a percentage of the world or their community that thinks a certain way rather than rock the boat, because if they stand out, that puts the light on them, and the people around them could possibly judge, criticize, whatever that is. It can be very uncomfortable. It can be very uncomfortable to step out and out into the light, because you could be bringing up something that people won't want to hear, that don't want to hear. Example, we're talking about that not everyone is going to achieve greatness. You might not like hearing that. And that could just be because you will not allow yourself to be your own individual, because you are unique, because you brought that up earlier. We are all uniquely different from one another. We might think some things the same. We might like some of the same things. We might act a certain way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything about us is the same as everyone else. I think it would be a pretty boring world if we were all the same. There would be no room for growth, nothing. Right. And so I think, that part of what we wrote, what we had put in there is not everyone is destined for greatness. That's why I feel that not everyone is destined for greatness. And I feel like if we can talk about maybe that piece, and then we can talk about why some people who strive for it may never achieve it. So let's talk about why you think not everyone is destined for greatness. What do you think, Andy?
See, when I thought of that statement the first time I thought of it, I thought of it from 2 points of view, because I like what you just said as far as a lot of people won't achieve greatness because they're not willing to lean into the thing that makes them great. Mm-hmm. They're scared of standing out. They're scared of the opposition. They're scared of whatever. Like, there's all kinds of things that keep people from wanting to be great. Mm-hmm. And so that's one point of view. As far as there's a lot of people who just won't lean into what it takes to be great, and won't believe even that they have anything unique about themselves that makes them great. So they're not destined for greatness. And the other ones, the other perspective is, I was also talking from the very broad and technical definition of greatness that most of society shares, is that, the national, international level of greatness. Not everybody's ready for that. Not everybody is destined to have that. Not everybody's going to be internationally famous. We're not all supposed to be. We don't want that many celebrities. Many people believe we already have too many people to look up to, too many celebrities. So not everybody is meant to be on that global recognition scale. However, you can be the person who's recognized for your greatness within your family, within your workplace, within, a much smaller scale. You can be destined for that kind of greatness. And like you said, everybody can be great. Everybody deserves greatness. Everybody has greatness within them. And I agree. Just not all of it's on a global or national level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and most of us aren't going to, don't know how to achieve it, aren't willing to do the things that it takes to become great, which is why great still has a definition and will always have a definition, because there's always going to be people who just don't know what it takes or aren't willing to do what it takes. And so when I think of not everybody is destined to be great, I'm thinking about those two things. Is not everybody's going to be great in the national or international scale. Excuse me. And not everybody is going to want to do what it takes to be great. Not everybody wants to, either wants to or knows how to um, lean into their uniqueness, lean into what makes them special, what makes them awesome, what makes people want to be around them. This is discussions you and I have often, just yesterday. What makes us special? What makes us unique? What makes us the best part of who we are? And as great as you and I are, we still need those reminders pretty often. We
Mm-hmm.
still need to be reminded, even ourselves, pretty often, what is it that makes us great? And so that's what I mean by when I think of not everybody's destined for greatness. As
Okay.
far as not everybody will achieve it, even those who want it won't achieve it, is because there is a recipe for greatness. It's not the same recipe for every person. And a lot of us will follow someone else's recipe. We'll see, Johnny Depp did X, Y, and Z to become a famous actor, or, or Barack Obama did X, Y, and Z to become a famous president, and, or any of these kinds of things, and we'll do that thing. But that isn't our thing. Like, that's not the thing that we're going to do to become great. So we'll follow somebody else's recipe to become something we're not. And therefore we'll strive for greatness. I'll try to become president of the United States, even though I'm a Canadian citizen.
Love it.
Right? I'll
Right?
try to become
You
I'll try
never
to
know.
become a brilliant actor, even though I really don't like acting. I might try and do something that's just not me. And I might try and follow somebody else's recipe. So a lot of people who will try and achieve greatness won't achieve it because they're just not doing their own thing. What is their thing to do? And that's the hard part, is trying to figure out what your thing is to do. This is what we like. That's the conversation I was just talking about. You and I have to do that for each other often. I ask you, you ask me, we ask our other coach friends, we ask our friends and family. We search often for what is it, because we evolve and change, and we get in our head and we get confused, and we need reminders. And just because you don't know what your path is doesn't mean there isn't one. There is. Find the support you need to get it. I promise it's out there.
Yeah. No, I like that. And I think one of the things about what I also was thinking about as you were speaking is that there are a lot of people out there who may strive for greatness and never achieve it. But I guess it depends on this type of greatness that you're looking for, right? Because there are people out there who not necessarily are striving for greatness from a place of service, but they're looking for greatness from a place of being served. So they're looking for power.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when I look at that statement as like, some who strive for it will never achieve it, I think how I kind of bring that together for me is that there are people out there who achieve power, but they haven't achieved greatness and they never will. And
Right.
it's just because of who they are and how they interact with other people and how they treat other people. And typically, how they're treating other people is not necessarily the nicest way, that they're treating other people. Sorry, my thing here is getting in the way. So yeah, and so they're not treating people from a place of kindness, and they're not being in living in integrity. For them, doing the right thing really only embodies what the right thing is for them, and not for life as a whole, for people as a whole. So I think those people who achieve that really great level of power, who people might say, well, this person is great, they've achieved greatness because they've achieved this much wealth, they've achieved this much fame, does not necessarily mean that they are living in greatness, because they're just living from a place of power. And so that's for me um how I look at that statement, and how I kind of like went through the process of like, what does that
Yeah.
mean to me? So I'm curious
Yeah.
what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I agree. Some people are looking for greatness by gathering power or wealth or influence or friends or people, um, and and I'm going to go back to the statement that I said, that isn't their path. You know, everybody has a path to greatness, but just because you've reached $1 billion, or you have the authority over nations, that doesn't mean you're great. It just means you're powerful or rich. And rich or powerful people aren't necessarily great people. Those people have a path to greatness, and it may include that money and or power. It doesn't always,
Mm-hmm.
and it might not. But the path they took isn't the path to greatness. The path they've been on isn't their path to greatness. One of my favorite stories, and I won't share the details of the story because it's private, but one of my favorite stories is the story of a famous person who got very, very famous, very, very rich, and had influence all over. They could do anything, go anywhere, and they ended up suicidal. They ended up depressed because although they had all the things they were looking to achieve, they didn't achieve the greatness they wanted, because the thing they actually stood for, nobody ever knew about. The thing they actually represented in themselves, they never told anybody about. The thing that they thought made them great didn't influence anybody. So this is when we talk about money and power corrupting, that's what we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people's path to greatness includes money and or power, and those people serve. When they get their power, when they get their money, they make a difference. Maybe it's not the difference we think they should make, but they do make a difference. And that's what greatness looks like. You can be great on a national or international level, and you can have the power and the fame and the money and all the wonderful things if that's your path to greatness. But many people who strive for those things, and hell, even achieve those things, aren't actually great people, because what they're trying to do is selfish. What they're trying to do is serve themselves. What they're trying to do is prevent the dangers that they used to have, or that they fear having. Maybe they grew up in a poor and violent neighborhood, so they became rich and famous and powerful to make sure nobody could hurt them. Maybe they were victim in some way or another, so they grow up, or they chase this thing they think is greatness, when actually all it is covering a wound. All it is a band-aid. And so when people aren't achieving greatness, when we say that statement, a lot of people who strive for greatness, that's what I think of. And I agree with you. It's exactly what you're saying. Some people who become rich and powerful don't deserve it. Some people who become rich and powerful do, but not all of them deserve it. And so sometimes when we chase greatness, we don't achieve it. And that's what it means to me. And it is just a matter of the same as somebody who's following somebody else's plan. It's the same case. They're following a plan that wasn't meant for them. that wasn't their way of becoming great. So yeah, I agree with you completely. Some people who have it don't deserve it, and it's not greatness they have. They just have power and money and authority and all these other things that aren't greatness.
No, I like that. So the last part of our description, we talked about why there are some people who avoid it like the plague.
Yes.
And I'm curious about that because I know for a fact, pretty much. It's not that I've talked to thousands of kids, but I was a kid once, and I know all kids dream and they believe in the impossible things that, now we look back and we think, wow, I wanted to be an astronaut that flew to Mars. And it hasn't become a reality yet. But there is someone in the world who is working on that. But I'm just curious, like there are people who really will avoid it. And I'm curious, when did that become their reality? Because again, like I said, as kids, we did start out from a place of dreaming, of believing in the impossible, or I don't know if I would say impossible, but we believed that there wasn't anything that wasn't possible. And now, but now that we believe that for the most part, a lot of people will, when they say things like, oh, it's impossible. And so you ask them, well, why is it impossible? And they'll have a bunch of reasons, but there's not really anything to really back that up. And I'm just curious where you think this is coming from.
I think it's coming from trauma, from a place of danger. At some point in our lives, all of us have been told, have been taught, have been shown that getting noticed is dangerous. Whether it's when we're 3 and our parents are hosting Christmas for the family and we knock over a bowl of punch and now everybody's looking at us. And my mom or my dad starts yelling and screaming at me. Maybe one of my uncles or my grandparents start, shaming me for something. So I'm the center of attention, and I learned that being the center of attention is a bad thing. Or maybe it's when I'm in high school and I'm a comedian, I'm a class clown, and everybody laughs at my jokes, and I love being the center of attention. But puberty has kicked in, and I have physical consequences that I don't want anybody to notice about. So somebody's looking at me one day, and suddenly I'm the center of attention for a reason I don't want. And that's trauma. At some point, we learned that being great is dangerous. At some point, we decided that doing the thing that we're good at is going to harm somebody, usually us, but not always. Sometimes the trauma is to somebody else. And we don't want that. So we avoid it. We learn that doing the thing we're really good at will hurt somebody. And this is the thing that I was talking about earlier when I said sometimes you will piss people off. Sometimes you will cause conflict with other people. When I talk about unconditional love in public forums, trust me, there are a lot of people who hate that concept because they think I'm saying that they should stay with their partner no matter what their partner says or does. And I'm not. But that's what they believe I'm saying. So being greatness, leaning into our greatness has consequences. Sometimes we will have to deal with those people who are traumatized by our greatness. Sometimes we will have to deal with those situations that cause us to question our greatness. Sometimes we'll have to deal with really bad situations. And those have nothing to do with whether or not we're great. Those have everything to do with life throws stuff at you. The whole point of being great is to help other people handle their traumas, to help other people handle their bad situations. The whole point of being great is so that they can do what they're best at, and don't have to strive for to cover up their inadequacies, their weaknesses, the things that they struggle with. You can, if you can help, if you can be great at those things, they don't have to be. They can just be great at what they're good at. So we avoid being great like the plague because at some point it's been dangerous for us to do so. I've experienced that myself a lot. So I know what it's like. I get it. And be great anyway. That's my short statement. I got a lot of other things to say about that, but that's my short statement. Be great anyway.
No, I love that. And I think it's so true when you think about our experiences in our life. Again, it the things that happen to us in our life, something will happen, but it's not so much what happened, it's what meaning we're going to give to it that's going to shape the rest of our life, right? Whatever that meaning is, it could be, like you said, the young adult boy in school having a moment where people are looking at him for a reason that he did not expect or want that attention. And as a man going back when he's healthy and he understands that's just a fact of life, part of nature, and it wasn't his fault, he had no control. But in the moment, the other children around him as well are going to have a reaction. And
Yeah.
so you learn that by their reactions that you're not good. You're not good enough to step into anything more. Like, you need to be invisible and not rock the boat and not try to be more than maybe you had originally thought when you were 10 or 11, and you thought that there was no limit to what you could do, that there was so many
Right.
possibilities, and that you didn't have anything standing in your way really, except what you decided you chose to do and the other things you didn't. But as we get older, I think what happens too is not so much, I think it's not so much that we learn to the dangers of maybe standing out by just experiences, but I also think it could be in our interactions with people, specifically being told
Yeah.
point blank that you are not going to amount to anything.
Yeah.
I've heard that said to people before, and
Yeah.
it's kind of astounding to hear those words come out of a parent's mouth, saying that to someone. Now, it wasn't said to me, but I mean, it just, one of the
Yeah.
things that really kind of sits with me in a way now that I understand more. Not really. I think I've thought about it even before I became a coach, but one thing my mom used to say to my younger brothers, why can't you be more like your sister? And it would, uh, at the time, as a kid, because I was only like a couple years, my youngest brother was a couple years younger than me, and then the next one was like 5 years younger than I was. But it would be like, why can't you be more like your sister? And I now look back thinking, well, I'm glad that he was more like him,
Yeah.
because there only needs to be one of me in my family, and only needs to be one of him, and the same with my other siblings. And so that's where why I think both of us have really leaned into working with people. What we do really embodies about relationships and families and all of that. And
Yes. Yeah.
so part of that too is what we will be talking about when we are working with someone. It really does matter the things that we say and how we say them, who we're saying them to, when we're saying them, because children are sponges and have no real filter as far as to understand, oh, that's just, I can let that go in one ear and out the other. And even though you might think that that's what they're doing, they're not. They're taking it all in. So
Yeah.
that becomes kind of like the guiding North Star for them to believe when someone says, you are not good enough, you're not going to amount to anything, is a star that they're always going to be. Star true north for them is, I'm not going to amount to anything. So I'm not going to try to stand in my own greatness, to try to do better, to try to be better, to try to
Yeah.
make a difference in the world. So I think part of that is why I believe some people will avoid it like the plague, not necessarily because from, I think, maybe any doing of their own, but maybe how they've been influenced by someone else,
Yeah.
by words that have resonated with them. And they may have even forgotten that, and they could be in their 30s and 40s or 50s living their life from a place that true north for them is, I'll never amount to anything, so I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try to do
Yeah.
better Not going to like step out and stand out or stand up for anything because it's not possible.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, uh, now that just came to me really just now when I started thinking more on just that one phrase. Why can't you be more like your sister? And I
Yeah.
remember actually speaking up one time just saying, "Mom, you shouldn't say that." But now I realize all these years later that it could have been extremely harmful,
Yeah.
but it was not. I mean, he was fine. Now the youngest brother, not so much. There's things, and that's a whole other story. But he has his own demons to work through. But again, what becomes your guiding north star could be for you stepping into your greatness. Could actually be that someone told you, "Don't bother,"
Yeah.
so you might as well not even try. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and that's pretty sad.
yeah, it doesn't even have to happen in childhood. Like you were mentioning at the start,
Yeah.
it can happen in adulthood. Like an employer walking up to an employee and saying, you know, I just wish you were like Bob over here, who is so much better than you, or I just wish you were like, you know, Mary over here, who is so much better than you, or I just wish you were like this person or that person, or can you ever be good at your job? Will you ever do this right? I've heard employers say things like that. I've heard some of them say things like that to me. Most don't. Now, let's be fair. Most people don't talk like that.
Hmm.
That isn't the majority of people, but there are some who do. And those are the words that can run with a person for a long time. And like you said, maybe that was when I was 3 and I don't remember it. Or maybe that was when I was 10 and I don't remember it. Or even when it was 30 and I still don't remember it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect us. Just because we don't have it in our conscious memory doesn't mean that it doesn't affect me. Oftentimes, like you said earlier, we make judgments. What does it mean? I judge that means I'm worthless. And I judge that means I'll never become anything. I judge that means that no matter what I do, it's not going to work. And the funny part about that is a lot of those people will go to great extremes to prove that statement wrong, and they don't even know that that's what they're doing. They'll open up a business. They'll spend thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars on training and courses or products or things to prove those statements wrong, to spite those people who said those things. And most of the time, they don't even know that's what they're doing. Sometimes we do. Sometimes I have tried to spite people. There are people I've tried to do that out of spite for, but most of the time, we don't know that that's what we're doing. And that's where people avoid it. That's where people avoid being great. That's where people avoid stepping into the thing that is great. Because maybe the thing that's great is what caused me to knock over that punch bowl when I was 3. Maybe I was dancing in the kitchen and the whole family was looking at me because I'm such a great dancer. And then I knocked over the punch bowl and I never dance again. Right? And that's a shame. And yet, those are sometimes the things that make us great. Just because you have trauma around it doesn't mean it's not your greatness. It could be the very thing that makes you great. Just because it's not popular, just because it's not famous, doesn't mean it isn't great. If you can step into that and help people, that's your greatness. Do more of that.
Love it. Well, I can't believe it. We're at the top of the hour, but then of course I should say I can believe it because
Because we do it every
it's
time.
been, yeah, we do. And I love this particular topic because I think it can make people really stop and think about perhaps that they have been stopping themselves from doing more with their
Yeah.
life. And could be that they have had those experiences that someone told them not to bother, or it could be that they're just fearful of standing out because of people in the media uh, are saying this is the way it should be. So they start to believe and realize I don't want to rock the boat. It's just really like I really love this topic, and I'd love to come back and visit it somewhere, some place down in the future to kind of
Mhm.
continue the topic again. Because I think as we go through the year, as we start really leaning into more of the topics that we have coming up, I think we can find some things to come back to revisit,
I agree.
and do a recap because I truly believe that people just need to be reminded that it's your right to live your life. And if someone told you that it's not, that's because they had their own limitations that they've decided is their truth. So, you know, giving yourself permission to go out and do something different and to possibly change your community, change your life, all of that, it just comes from taking that first step into the unknown, even though it scares the crap out of you, but doing it anyway, and then finding a supportive community around you that will say, "Hey, I support you to step into that place in your life." So I appreciate that. So it has been a great conversation. I am
As always,
definitely,
I love them.
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next conversation. We're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about being a control freak. This one is something I know oh so well. So definitely looking forward to that one.
Yep.
But yes, but thank you so much. Thank you if you're watching this live. Thank you so much for coming in. Just press the like if you like this. There's going to be a lot more topics that are going to be phenomenal. And if you haven't yet subscribed, press the subscribe button and share this with your friends and get your friends to come and take a listen. You know, this is meant just to inspire you to start thinking outside of the box, to start thinking about what's possible for you, looking at the
Yes.
possible rather than the impossible. And definitely, if you have any comments, any questions, post them in the comments, and we're sure to get back to you soon. As well as if there's something that you actually have that a topic that you'd love for us to cover, please also put that in the comments, and we'll definitely take a look at it. So,
Yeah.
Andy, it's been a pleasure as always.
I love these conversations. Thank you so much, Leslie. And yeah, like she said, like, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us. Let us know what you think, and let us build more stuff for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.